So for years, I've played Gang Beasts with my friends, a game all about physics and basically screwing over your friends in couch co-op or even online in such a way that you're knocking everyone else off the map, and it's a really good time. And over the last year, or maybe even 2 years, I've becoming more and more aware of a game called Party Animals, which on the surface looks a lot like Gang Beasts. But at the base level, instead of just killing your friends, or maybe even one of the other objectives of Gang Beasts, there seems to be a much wider variety of gameplay here with Party Animals, and it's coming at a much, seemingly higher presentation quality. So with that being said, let's jump into everything there is to know about Party Animals. So for your need to knows, Party Animals is a game coming from Recreate Games, a new developer working on their first game under this title, and this is being published by Source Technology. Now, as for where you can play this game, it is a little more limited than your usual modern release. This is coming exclusively for now to the PC and the Xbox platforms. The reasons they gave was that since it is their first game, they're working to solely make the experience as polished and high quality as possible on those two platforms, and then once release begins and things go well, they will start to branch out from there, seemingly indicating that this isn't anything more than just their first game and they want to get it right. Now, one thing to take into consideration, maybe there is some type of exclusivity under the way of Xbox Game Pass, as this game is coming on September 20th of 2023, and you can play it day one on Xbox Game Pass, which of course is console and PC. There are two editions of the game that you can buy. There's the base edition for $19.99, and then of course there is the Party Animals Deluxe Edition for $29.99. Both editions have all the maps, but the Deluxe Edition has exclusive outfits and some in-game currency. The in-game currency, if you are curious, can be earned by leveling up and is used to unlock different characters and outfits. I'm thinking of this in my head much more along the lines of, say, something like Fall Guys. In that, there's two different currencies, or there were the crowns and then the Showbucks, but in this, it's seemingly as you play, you can unlock stuff all the same. But continuing on with, before we get into what the gameplay of the game is actually going to be like, let's continue on with, I feel like, the monetization. I think that's something that a lot of people are going to want to know about. And it is said that the base animals in the game, because there are animals that you can unlock, and then there's different outfits that you can unlock. It is said that all of the base animals can be unlocked by playing, and about 70% of the outfits can be unlocked from leveling alone. And when I say leveling, I mean like, say, level rewards. You can also get them from the item shop, from the battle passes, and you can also get them from getting specific achievements as well. Speaking of achievements, there are about 100 of them, so if you like showing off your skill or dedication for the gamer score, there you go. Now, I feel like the last major thing that we need to get into before we go into the different game modes and maps and things like that is actually the multiplayer. So of course, online play is seamless with friends with quick play, and there are also game IDs to add your friends easily from different platforms, so that will be really nice. Local multiplayer, which is how I played a lot of Gang Beasts, which I understand this game is a little bit different. This seems to have a little bit more going on as far as objectives are concerned, but all the same, you can go up to 4 players in local with split screen, and the reason all the characters aren't just on one screen and it's split screen like that is because you're going to want to get as much detail and zoomed in as possible. So like, say in Gang Beasts, for instance, when the players moved from one side of the map to the other and they went in different ways, it zoomed the camera out so far that you could hardly tell what you're doing. And due to the nature of the weapons and different objectives that you actually need to be completing in this, that just wasn't going to work, and they've said so themselves. Now, with that being said, let's talk about each of the game modes. So keep this in mind as we talk about these three. There are at least 15 maps at launch, with more to be added post-launch. Now, originally, when they made a blog post about this, there were only planned 12 at launch, but after an updated list of all of the different maps being shown, I counted at least 15. And those are going to be split into 3 different game modes. It's unclear exactly how many maps are going to carry over from one game mode to the other, but the 3 major game modes are Last Stand, which is the Battle Royale themed mode, where you can fight to be the last team standing with your duo. That was one change they made in development, was going from a free-for-all where it's every man for himself to where you now have to play as a duo. You can, however, play custom games if you want to tweak the team sizes to make it, once again, 8 solos or even up to 2 teams of 4. So I like this overall, but know that the quick play and the main rotation is going to be 4 teams of duos. The second game mode is called Team Score, where you can take items either to your base, like capture the flag, or score on an opponent's area, like some form of ball game, to score points. And then finally, for the final game mode, we have Arcade, which is pretty much anything else that doesn't fit into these two modes. And interestingly enough, in the quick play queue, this one isn't one of the modes that's going to come up in the regular rotation. Mostly because seemingly it doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's super team-oriented or anything like that, if that makes sense. But now that we've covered the 3 game modes, get an idea of how many maps we're going to be experiencing, let's actually go through some of the maps and game modes detailed a little bit more closely. Now, starting off with the first game mode, Last Stand, there are 2 major maps that are mentioned in the devlogs that give pretty good detail exactly how these are going to be playing. First up is Blizzard Warning. You're going to be fighting next to small campfires and freezing temperatures. When a blizzard comes, anyone not close enough to the lit campfire will be frozen into a block of ice, which is how you get eliminated. The campfires will dwindle over time, but be careful to not stand too close either, as seemingly you'll catch on fire. Next up, we have the Black Hole Lab, and in this one you're going to be fighting beside a black hole generator. Players need to grab heavy objects to avoid being sucked into the black hole, and seemingly you're going to probably try to knock the others out so they can get sucked into the black hole because they can't defend themselves. Now, of course, with these game modes, and pretty much every other game mode in the game, more than likely, you're going to have different weapons. We've seen all types throughout the trailers. There's some that are just melee weapons. You can hold them up to enemies and hit them. There's things like a boomerang, which if you throw it and maybe if you don't catch it or if you don't hit anything, it comes back and it will knock you out. So there seems to be like a risk reward to using certain items, which I think is really interesting. But going on to the next game mode, we have Team Score, which I feel like is the one we know the most about, but it's also the one that has kind of the more broad of the 2 spectrums. So the first one we have is Need for Speeding Train. Players need to carry lumps of coal into the fire engine to speed up the train that they're on. The first team to come across the finish line wins. But you're not going to want to pull the handbrake because it will quickly slow the train down. Now, seemingly the reason this is because you can hop from train to train. I don't really know that for sure from looking at the images and the trailer for it, but the lumps of coal going on to the objective makes perfect sense to me, and I think that's a really cool team game mode. Another instance of the Team Score game mode is Electro Ball, which is completely different from the other one because this one is an actual ball game. The goal of all ball games is to get the ball into your opponent's gate. The first team to reach 6 points wins. And they also say Electro Ball is a bit like basketball for humans, you just aim and shoot. But one thing that is interesting about this game mode is that if multiple people hold the ball simultaneously, the ball will electrocute you and explode, which is a really interesting twist that you're not going to want to be struggling over the ball and just pulling it like that. And it definitely makes it a lot more solo in that regards, which is really interesting to me. Another Team Score game mode is Trebuchet. Players need to use the Trebuchet to throw bombs to the opponent's base and let it explode to earn points. You can throw your teammates over to the mess with your opponents, or you can stay on your side to throw bombs back, or the bombs they've thrown at you into the river. Really cool, and I like the way that this one feels a lot more chaotic. Similarly to the ball game, we have ice hockey. Players need to get the hockey into the opponent's gate to earn points. Be careful, you might get knocked out by the hockey, and there is one shield on the map, and apparently that will make you a better gatekeeper. The final one that I'm going to go over for Team Score is the Balloon Money Safe. Players need to fight for the money safe in the middle of the map and carry it to their own base. The money safe is attached to a balloon, so players have to hold onto it and move it like a swing, and when people are trying to pull you from all around, that could seemingly be very difficult. Now for the final game mode of Arcade, we have a lot less to go on as far as that's concerned, but one of them is called Winter Bar. Players are split into 2 teams. You need to throw your opponent out of the bar into the snowy outside to eliminate them. The difference between Arcade and Last Stand is that you keep respawning back into Arcade mode until all of your team's respawn opportunities run out. This is pretty much just a standard deathmatch map. So I like that respawns and then also, a little bit twist on the original Last Stand game mode. So I like that. Now that's everything you really need to know about Party Animals. I could talk more about how they've talked about working on performance for the game and the drawbacks of that and how they want to get it down to the lowest common denominator so everybody can play the game, or the fact that the game may not be Steam Deck verified but will definitely run at hopefully 30 FPS at decent settings on the Steam Deck. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this game does and how it's, will one of the most wish-listed games on Steam as of right now, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out. And I'm going to be playing it around launch. Starfield's coming out. I can't guarantee anything. But if you're going to be playing the game, let me know. Maybe I'll run into you. Maybe I'll fucking beat you up. Who knows? But thanks for watching, and yeah, goodbye.